Cinema Classics is sponsored by WCBE 90.5 FM, Columbus, Ohio. Produced by John DeSando, Cinema Classics can be heard online at wcbe.org and Thursdays at 8:01 p.m.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm G Kline.
And this is Cinema Classics.
This is Cinema Classics.
Now listen, Ken, this is what we have to do. It's summertime. There's not always terrific films out there, so we're going to do a double. We're going to do a real double.
See, I would argue that there's too many movies in summertime. That you just don't have time to cover them all because we are just bombarded with movies in summer.
We'll do two. First, we'll do one that you don't like, and then we'll do one that I don't like.
Okay.
That way we have a complete show.
Oh, this should be interesting.
We'll first do Boogeyman, and then we'll do the one that you...
Spider-Man Across the Multiverse.
Yes, all right. All right, let's look at Boogeyman first. Now, come on, how can you go wrong with Stephen King? It's originally a Stephen King
you
short
can go
story.
very wrong with Stephen King. Stephen King is a master of writing, but his movies have not always done those books justice. In fact, they very often do not do those books justice because those books are not easily filmable.
Well, how did Rob Savage do? Now, you remember him from Host.
From The Host, yeah. He did a good job. He did the production values in this film are terrific. The lighting is beautiful. I mean, it's a wonderful film to watch.
Well, it is about light, isn't it?
It is about light.
I mean,
Light is a key to it. The monster in this movie cannot go into the light. King's writing style is really outstanding in that he establishes early on what the monster can do and what the monster can't. And King's great about that because he believes that unless the reader or the audience knows when the monster is in danger, you're never going to think the monster is in danger, and you're never going to know if the good guys have won.
And we can get into the plot a little bit, but I just want to make my usual message here. Why do you bother to depict the monster? But when it all looks like Alien, why do you do that? You know, the people who were largely responsible for this in A Quiet Place waited in their film to the end to show it. And then when they show it, you're saying, ho hum, I've seen this monster before.
And there's very few monsters that we haven't seen before. It's very hard to be original with this kind of material. You know, King's writing is really about what the characters are thinking. Yes. It's the emotions, it's the connection, it's the bond they have. And you can divide almost all King books into one of two storylines. They're either dealing with the paranormal, like his early works, Carrie, The Shining, The Dead Zone, or they're dealing with hard science fiction, like Tommyknockers or Dreamcatcher. And my favorite ones, though, are the ones where King introduces a benevolent force that aids our heroes in defeating the monster. And this is one of those. This is one where there's a benevolent force. I wish it played a more prominent role in the film, but there's a benevolent force on the hero's side to help them try to defeat this evil.
Yeah, and now how do you think it stacks up against the most recent one that I can remember, It?
Oh, it's nowhere near the quality.
Yeah, Pennywise is not in this film.
It is one of King's greatest books, so they're going to really pay attention when they make a movie of it because they know that the audience is expecting a lot. Yeah. This was based on just a short story, and I almost wonder if every single time that King puts a pen to paper, it's going to turn into a movie.
In the Boogeyman, picking up on what you're saying, and I agree. King is psychological, man. The forces that are inside of us is what he pulls out for the audience and scares the bejesus out of everybody because we can all see it inside. When the main characters here have lost mother and wife, there is a lingering sense of regret and of dread and everything else that can come when you've recently lost. And so it's easy to pull out a monster out of all that, I think, anyway.
It's a very vulnerable situation, and what King does with this, which I like, is the central hero is the teenage daughter. She's got to rescue not only her younger sister, much younger sister, but she's got to rescue her father too, who is in such emotional conflict because of the loss of his wife, that she's got to take control of the situation. She's got to be the one that stands up. Yeah, that's one of the things about the movie I really like.
And Dad is a therapist,
but
he can barely keep up.
He's completely lost. He's out of his element in this. He's a rational thinker, and this isn't a rational force.
I'll tell you though, Chris Messina, he was very good in Air.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember him playing
Yes.
the con man?
Playing the con man, yeah.
He was very good. On this one, he seemed lost, but maybe that's the point.
I think that was kind of the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, what's her name? Sophie Thatcher, very good as the older girl.
Oh, she's absolutely
Yeah, she carries the
fantastic.
film.
She carries this film. It's almost a one-person film for a lot of the film. And so it's, if you're going to see this movie, I'd say act fast. And the summer is so filled with blockbusters, I don't think it's going to stick around very long. But if you do want to add this to your list of King films, this is, you know, it's well worth seeing.
Ken, what about the fact, as I recall, this was PG-13?
Yeah, this is PG-13.
How do you get PG-13 out of something like this?
Most King movies are not R-rated. There's with a few exceptions. The Shining was R-rated, but for the most part, most King books can be put on the screen as PG-13.
I don't know, man. When it can be that scary, and it was scary for me anyway.
Yeah, yeah. King can be filmed very effectively. The Shining is a beautiful example, and there was a made-for-TV version of Salem's Lot that still stands up really well today. But for the most part, a lot of his stuff falls flat once it hits the screen.
All right. So, as we get past your stark criticism of this, how you dare to do that, I got to listen to you now about the Spidey universe or whatever it's called.
Okay, here
This
it
is
comes.
called what? Spidey?
Spider-Man Across the Multiverse.
Oh boy, and it's animation.
It is. This is this is a sequel to an animated Spider-Man film that came out a couple of years ago, did extraordinarily well at the box office. What I'm going to say is that the moment that the Columbia Pictures logo hit the screen last weekend, every single superhero film ever made just became obsolete.
I love it.
It is that far. You do not compare this movie to Guardians of the Galaxy or Captain America. You compare this movie to 2001: A Space Odyssey, to The Yellow Submarine, to Fantasia. It is against those very lofty films that this film stands up, because this film is not just a superhero film. This is a work of art. This is a film where you can sit in the theater and you just want to freeze frame these scenes because and hang them on your wall.
All right,
They're that
Ken,
beautiful.
I get it. It's beautiful. But tell me, why you would dare put the same with 2001?
Oh, absolutely. In some ways, I'd say it's.
In what way is this philosophically heavy?
This film could possibly be one of the 20 best films ever made. And no one's more amazed to hear me saying that than I am, because I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I've never been a big, Spider-Man is Marvel's equivalent of Superman. He's a moralist. He never really held my interest. He sees everything black and white.
Well, and I've always objected to these Spider-Man films because Spider-Man was never certain about what he was doing. He always wanted to go back home and get out of it.
Well, he's the kid. He's the young kid among the superheroes.
It really bothered me.
And they do an amazing job of using that angle to make this film a film that teenagers can identify with very, very easily. Because in this film, there's two central characters. Miles Morales is the Superman in this, the Spider-Man, I'm sorry, in this movie. Miles is a 15-year-old teenager. He has a friend who is named Gwen. Gwen is also, I believe, 15, and she is the Spider-Man from her universe, the Spider-Girl, I should say. And
is there such a character, Spider-Girl?
Oh, there's a wide variety of Spider
okay.
characters, yeah. But in the multiverse, there's thousands of different Earths, and every single Earth has its own Spider-Man.
Okay, yeah.
And so the Spider-Man from one Earth and the Spider-Man of another Earth can be very, very different. One can be male, one can be female. And in this, because this is a work of art, they're even drawn differently. They're drawn in the styles of many of the great comic book artists. So when you see these scenes of 50, 60, 100 Spider-Men in one scene, one of them is a Frank Miller drawn Spider-Man, one's a Chris Claremont drawn Spider-Man, one's a Jim Shooter drawn Spider-Man, and they're embracing and rewarding you for knowing all of these different artists and their styles.
All right, now Ken, philosophically, where's the heaviness of this?
The heaviness of this, well, first of all, the heaviness comes from the visuals.
All right, so I got that, and I think you're right. You may even have convinced me to see it.
Gwen is very emotional. She's very emo. She's a punky 15-year-old girl, and in the backgrounds, especially towards the end when she's talking to her father, the backgrounds convey her emotions. So the apartment where they're standing becomes dripping with dull grays and blacks and pale colors as she's having an emotional turmoil. everything about this film is about using the art. If there's a graphic artist in the world that didn't see this movie last weekend, I guarantee you they're going to see this movie this weekend.
All right, now I'm trying to extract a theme here.
But the
and
theme,
that's what I'm getting the visual, I'm getting that from you, and the artfulness of it, reminding me of the Van Gogh film that was out a while ago. Just beautifully done. Now, but tell me, if it weren't an animation, it were just a regular film, what would be its theme?
oh, absolutely, if it was a regular live action film with CGI, it would still rank among the very best of all the superhero films, because the central theme is not the action. The central theme is the turmoil that the characters are emotionally going through. Gwen is representative of teenagers who have already accepted themselves. They know who they are. If this were an LGBTQ theme, they've already come out. And now they're trying to find a community of people like themselves so they can fit in. She's just desperately trying to fit in somewhere. Whereas Miles, on the other hand, is only now just starting to explore himself, to find himself. He's just now coming out. And Gwen is going one direction, he's going the other.
All right,
but
let's
they're
stop
both
right there. Let's stop right there, because I think we've got some stuff to talk about in our podcast, which is Double Take. And so before then, so people have to go to our podcast in the WCBE 90.5 FM, WCBE.org, and find us, the podcast, and listen. Now, our audience, we have two films here. Don't forget the first one, Boogeyman, and then Spider-Man. So what do you advise our audience?
I advise, if you have the opportunity to see Boogeyman, if you're a King purist, go see it. It's not quite as good as The Black Phone. It was written by King's son last summer, which was a great film. But it's a decent, well-made entry into the King film series.
And then Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, everybody in the world should go see this movie.